Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We are live once again as we get set up for more NFL free agency coverage, kind of back into the regular routine. Got producer Chris behind the scenes for today's show. The pinned comment on today's video, or pinned poll, I should say, is this. Once again, grade the Cowboys free agency so far. A, B, C, D, or F. You can let me know in the comments and in the pinned poll. 6% say A, 42% say B, 45% say C, 7% say D or F. So I think the vast majority right in that B-C range. It feels about right to me. I'll give some shout-outs here as these flow in. Jace has a C-. Rosefully has a D+. Certainly, I think we all agree it's better than last year. But, better than last year isn't necessarily the goal you're aiming for. But B- from Roy. Jane says F. Xavier Wilson says B-. Hoodie Kush has high C, low B, which is probably like where the average is. Ecuador Man says usually an F, so a C-. Again, not lying. B-, but the bar is not high. F+, C, C-, B-, C+, C, C+ at best. B, C+, C+, B-, C+, B, C, D. If you did like the bell curve thing, it would just have a giant uptick, like right around B-, C+. I think that's how a lot of people feel, which I think is accurate. C+, that's how I feel. B-, B, B, D, B, C, C- for the Cowboys, F for the NFL. D+, B-, B, give me Asante Samuel, it's a B. I would like to sign Asante Samuel. I don't think they want to spend the money, / they'd hate corners with small arms, and he's a small arm corner. C, B, B-. Keep the votes coming to grade the Cowboys free agency so far. Chris Broussard's burner account. What's your favorite Vaughn off? Is it 1700? Is that how it is? Song. Chris, you got anything for me here? I got absolutely nothing for you. This feels like a Chat GPT name.
Yeah, I don't know who it is either, but I just looked it up, and I'm just going off the names of the songs. That's it. I'm going to go with,
You got nothing for me.
I got nothing. Let's go, Glock Bop.
Okay.
That's a real name of a song, by the way.
Does Chris have anything for us? Or Stone has anything for us?
Stone.
I got nothing here. If you guys have answers, please tell me. He also says producer Chris, and Jeff Teague are my heroes. His podcast is hilarious. I got nothing on Jeff Teague's podcast, by the way. Yeah, King or Vaughn off 1700. Any songs from him?
Oh.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing. Okay.
No,
You've stumped everybody here.
Yeah.
I just went by, favorite names. Stunting like my daddy.
That one sounds familiar, but that's what might be a phrase. That might just be a phrase. I don't know. I got it, but thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that. Let's go to the Super Chat menu for today's show. Any super to shout out, no matter how do you do, fellow kids, we get there. $20 shot or bean boozled. We got a little bit left. I might have to buy more for you for the Bama watch party this week, Chris. $50 for the beer bong. Most March $50 Super Chats gets the signed Zach Martin jersey. Anthony McMillan has the lead at 6. The first 50 of the day, instead of counting as just 1, it'll actually count 2 in the tracker. So chance to double up and gain some ground on that front. Anthony's at 8. Calvin, Jeremy are at 5. Brandon's at 6. And then a bunch of others at 2s and 1s in there. Cowboys, by their standards, have been extremely busy in free agency, although it has been a lot of depth signings so far. How many more free agents do you think the Dallas Cowboys will end up signing? Let me know in the comments of today's show. How many more free agents do you believe the Cowboys will end up adding? This could be, I think, re-signings or external free agents too. 0, 0, 1, 0, 1 before the draft. These all before the draft, June signings don't count. 2 or 3, 3, 3, 0, 1, 3, 2. 3 depth impactful zeros. 3, 1 to 2, 1, 6.9 from Mike Sutton, which I greatly appreciate there as well. Thank you very much, my friend. 1, 2, 2, 0, 1. I think there's room for maximum 1 or 2. Like, they're already roster count-wise kind of high up there. Between their 10 draft picks, they've only got room for a handful of other moves, including undrafted free agents. So I kind of wonder if they're kind of winding down at this point and not looking at that many alternative options there. So how many more free agents with the Dallas Cowboys end up signing? I got 3, excuse me for excusing, by the way, 1, 0, 1 to 2. No, I mean any free agents. It doesn't have to be quality free agents. It can be depth guys. That's fine too. The John IV, or the John 4, maybe is the best way to describe it there. I should actually put the right name in there. Definitely read that as Johnny. Thank you very much. A $50 super chat. He says hi. Thank you very, very much, John. That's a beer bong time. 2 entries as well into the most 50s. The kind of halfway point in the month of March. We'll crack this one open. Nice and ice cold, too, making it even more fun in the end. So there we go. Pour that one out. There we go. All the air bubble out of there. Slowly but surely there. Someone said a beer bong for the lady. There you go. It's funny. Cheers to you, John. Everyone spam John in the comments section of today's show. Woo! Thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. Every 50, we'll do a beer bong here on the Cowboys Report. Now, non-Cowboys related question. Who you got winning your bracket this year and winning March Madness? I have not done my bracket. I assume you picked Alabama, Chris? You haven't done any other? I do it Monday night more often than not. And I finished like third back-to-back years in the Chat Sports bracket too. I've been like right there with a chance to win. It turns out just picking UConn was super easy to do. Anyway,
I'm going with Florida.
You're going with Florida?
I think that's going to be the team to end up winning it. Yeah. In my bracket, anyways.
You're just Duke. And Cooper Flag just goes nuts. They did lose on their death piece too, but Florida would.
They've been so hot.
Florida feels like at least a Final Four team.
Yeah.
So, Duke, Florida. Excuse me. Jorge wants me to do 4 beer bongs. That's $200. I'll do 4 in a row. Maybe space 1 out afterwards, but just because I get super burpy. Michigan, they're hot too, by the way. What a good hire they made, by the way. Florida, see, UNM, which I would find quite humorous there. New Mexico will win at least 1 game. No, it counts double for the most 50s tracker. It's 1 beer bong, but 2 of the most March 50s counter. Don't sleep on Kentucky. My best friend is a huge Kentucky fan, and he is also a big Xavier. He went to Xavier, so there's a real chance of just of internal chaos there. Idaho, Florida. Don't count out North Carolina. I am convinced North Carolina wins a game. Because this happens like every time. There's like that team should not have made it in. I remember the one year Syracuse made it in. They had like a 12 seed, and they made it to like the Sweet 16. Convinced North Carolina wins a game. And not playing game nonsense. Even though there's zero justifiable reason that North Carolina should have been in over West Virginia. They got absolutely screwed there. Maryland, they've been sneaky good this year, actually. Maybe underrated good. Tennessee, Illinois. Everett says, don't be Jelly Tom. My team is my alma mater, Miami of Ohio, and they just choked it away in the MAC championship game. And then got screwed by the NIT, but no one cares because it's the NIT. Whatever. Background there is no one cares. But Miami requested to and petitioned to host an NIT game because they were second in the MAC by 3 games. They swept the third-place team in 3 games, Kent State, made it second in the regular season, second in the conference title, and they took the third-place team for zero reason.
Did you see what happened to South Alabama?
Yeah, that's also terrible.
That's wild.
I don't know who's in charge of the NIT, but that person should be fired. That is such, how do you let that happen? And you've got, some 4-game below 500 team in there. It just doesn't make any sense. Just make it the mid-major tournament instead of this nonsense. Whatever. Arkansas, Clemson, St. John's. They're back. Arkansas, Grand Canyon, Gonzaga. Did Gonzaga make it this year? This is how lack of check I have had. I assume that they made it. Like, it's Gonzaga. I assume that every year Gonzaga and St. Mary's make it to the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Gonzaga versus Georgia. There you go. St. Mary's make it. I'd assume every year that they're in. Yeah, they play bandy. Yeah, so there you go. Makes sense. We got winning March Madness. Let me know in the comments of today's show. And we'll get actually going into Cowboys talk here. If you are ready, do me a favor by liking today's video. The goal was always a 50% like ratio. We get there before I ask for it. I'll certainly do a beer bong, but we're not quite there on that front. Who is that I put as the backup QB option? Who is that? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, I wonder if the URL changed. It's definitely supposed to be Cooper Rush. Yeah, I feel like the URL structures might have gotten all screwed up there somehow. Anyway, Chris will fix it. Like the video if you haven't already done so. That goal was always the 50%. I'm just looking ahead to the coming up graphic. And just make it Cowboys again. It's fine. Just to save time. Yeah, couldn't tell you who that is. That's super duper weird. There it is. I don't know what happened there. Well, one day we'll fix it. Like the video if you haven't already. But we got a super chat before we get into it from Mark. We are repeating the past. Past number ones for low money. Hasn't worked for 30 years. None of the free agent guys exceed what we lost. If you lose a 5, replace with an A6. I do think the lack of impact is concerning. To not have bigger pursuit there, to me, was extremely frustrating. Like, I just didn't get the depth. Adding depth is great, but to have, you're probably like around $35, $33 million cap space. To not do anything with that was really strange to me. So, coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, we've got more news and rumors around the Cowboys as free agency mostly winds down, minus a couple of notable players out there. Some top Cowboys backup quarterback options with Cooper Rush now gone, with a team that seems very likely to spend a day 3 pick on one if the board falls the way they want. And a mailbag. 2 ways to get in on the show. Use hashtag Cowboys. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Plenty of super thanks we'll get to, by the way, on today's show as well. And we'll kind of still a month and a half-ish away from the draft. We'll kind of power rank some of the top round 1 draft targets for the Dallas Cowboys. All coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. With free agency seemingly winding down, there are still some notable players out there, of course. How many more, if any, free agents will the Cowboys sign before the NFL draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. One notable name still out there is Tyler Lockett, the former Seahawks wide receiver who has very obvious ties to the organization, given the fact that Brian Schottenheimer, the Cowboys head coach, was once the Seahawks offensive coordinator with Lockett when statistically had some of his better campaigns. Lockett's cons and pros, I think, are mostly obvious. The value for Lockett, he was never going to get the, $17 million in cash he was owed this year by Seattle because he'd fallen to wide receiver 3 on the depth chart, behind DK Metcalf, who Seattle traded, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who they're very much excited for. Lockett had just fallen out of favor. The contract wasn't feasible. He has been released by Seattle, which makes him one of the better free agents out there in a not particularly good class. And wide receiver 3 in Seattle very well may have been wide receiver 2 in Dallas last year. The Cowboys have bodies. They have CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Cropper, and Paris Campbell, kind of more all slot receivers, why I list them behind each other there. Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Brooks, Ryan Flournoy. Cowboys got a great wide receiver 4 to wide receiver 9 room. It's wide receiver 2 in particular that very much stands out as a flaw with this Cowboys roster. Some pros and cons, then, of potentially adding Tyler Lockett. Look, number 1, he knows Schottenheimer. There is that built-in connection. I think it raises the floor at wide receiver 2/wide receiver 3, especially if, knock on wood, somebody good got hurt. and he does offer some inside-outside flexibility, which the Cowboys certainly value. The downsides. This is very clearly a player on the decline. The numbers do not lie. This is not the same caliber of player he was in his prime. And especially at this point in his career, he doesn't offer you after-the-catch ability. It's always been kind of a humorous thing to see Lockett make the catch, go out of bounds, go down, not try to break a bunch of tackles, conserve his body, whatever, but he's not going to be a crazy after-catch generator. I also think there's a numbers game issue. And from that numbers game perspective, I don't want any of these available receivers to preclude the Cowboys from drafting a wide receiver if there's one they desperately want or really want, or he's the best player available in round 1, round 2, round 3, or whatever. So overall, we'll spend some more time on this here. Would you sign Tyler Lockett? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Now, one note I want to mention here specifically with Lockett. He was released, so he does not count against the NFL compensatory pick formula, which means the Cowboys could sign him to any contract, not have any impact there. The way comp picks work is as follows. Based on average value per year and also playing time and some other reward stuff there, you get comp picks. If you lose players or free agency, those can get canceled out, etc. Anything above $3.5 million per year is currently projected to count against the comp pick formula. Here is how things currently sit in Dallas. The Dante Fowler signing essentially cancels out the Chauncey Golston signing. The Robert Jones signing essentially cancels out the Chuma Edoga departure, I should say. But that leaves 2 open 5th-round picks for Jordan Lewis and DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, of note, there's no other qualifying players at this time. So even if you sign a receiver to a $4 million deal, and that's not, quote-unquote, worth a 5th-round comp pick, everything gets bumped up one. So if you were to sign any receiver, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, whatever, to 1 year, $5 million, you would be costing yourself, as things currently sit, a 5th-round pick. So I don't think the Cowboys are going to go after expensive true free agents here. But that does not apply to Tyler Lockett's situation. Kind of like Chidobe Awuzie. That would be a non-comp pick qualifier. Or you can wait until after the draft, and then it doesn't count on the comp pick side either, so it ends up being fine. They might just draft one early. And maybe some of these older/injured receivers choose to wait so they can potentially get more money after the NFL draft and not impact the comp pick formula. That is something I would also keep an eye out for as we move forward, given there's a lot of teams with cap space that maybe are trying to play that comp pick game as well. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. March is here, and it is time to get in with real money sports action with PrizePicks. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. March is here. Always keep an eye out for some potential free squares like the half points for Johnny Broom of Auburn there. This is available. A lot of good college basketball PrizePicks slates are available as well. Fun way to kind of add to your bracket enjoyment. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly once you play 5. You don't need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, DaRon Bland, want to discuss him on today's show. The Cowboys are faced with the looming DaRon Bland and Micah Parsons and Tyler Smith extensions. The quarterback market, as it does for pretty much every position, with the salary cap has gone up, continues to rise. This comes on the heels, our conversation, of the Houston Texans making Derek Stingley the highest paid corner in the NFL at $30 million per year. We'll see if those numbers are juiced at all when the actual details come in, but either way, he's the highest paid corner. And that's a lot of money. And now I will make note, Stingley and DaRon Bland are different style corners. But the cornerback market has been restructured or reset twice this offseason. Derek Stingley got $30 million. J.C. Horn got 25. This all on the heels of Jalen Ramsey and Patrick Surtain getting $24 million, and acknowledging that at some point Jay Alexander gets cut. These numbers look a little bit different beyond that. Now, I don't think DaRon Bland would get the $30 million price point that Derek Stingley got. But there's big gaps there in terms of the top 5, top 10 cornerback market. And if you want to pay Bland, not that far removed from the record-setting pick 6 season, it would be expensive. Now, again, I don't think it's the 30, but, I mean, to put this in perspective, that Marshawn Lattimore contract all those years ago is about the same percent of the cap as the current Derek Stingley one. So that's just the growth inflation-wise. We're up approaching 10%. It's or $9 million, I should say. It's a significant amount from 21 and change to 30. So should the Cowboys pay DaRon Bland this offseason? There's one thing I want to discuss here as well that could complicate things. D for deal, ND for no deal. Now, given your current cornerback room issues, there is a real argument that the Cowboys' best 3 at corner features DaRon Bland at nickel, at least once everyone's healthy and depending on what you do in the draft, which would mean Diggs healthy, he's on the outside. Maybe Izzy Mukwamu isn't as good as Kaiir Elam, Kalen Carson. There is a very real scenario in which the Cowboys want to / almost have to put DaRon Bland at nickel. Now, what is important to consider here is that nickel corners simply do not get paid in the same way. The outside cornerback market and the nickel cornerback market are completely different. We're talking greater than half the difference. It's sizable. The highest paid nickel right now is currently Nate Hobbs, who signed with the Packers this offseason at $12 million. Then there's 4 guys, including Jordan Lewis, at $10.25 to $10 million. If I were DaRon Bland, and I bet he feels this way too, because there's no reason not to, you don't want to spend your contract year playing nickel corner, because that probably runs the risk of your market dropping. Now, if you pay him early and say, hey, but we might need you to play some nickel this year out of necessity, but long-term you're still an outside corner for us, you avoid that issue. Especially since, this time next year, it would not be a huge surprise with the way things have trended if Trayvon Diggs is moved on from at some point. That could certainly be in the cards. So, you pay him early, whatever that number looks like, maybe you take care of short-term and long-term issues there at the cornerback spot. At least one of them, I should say. Now, our goal is 100,000 subscribers. We are 353 away from that figure. If you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. We will get more 30 visit updates as we move forward here. Now, 30 visits, limited to 30. You can bring them in for kind of in-depth interviews, medicals, checks, stuff like that. We have one of the Cowboys' 30 visits now known. We'll get more leaks over the next month or so here. That is Virginia Tech back Bhayshul Tuten, who I'm a fan of his game. In a very deep running back class, yes, I am intrigued here. He's not the biggest player. He's 5'9 1/4, 206. That's a little bit shorter than what the Cowboys normally prefer. They don't normally like going in that ballpark. But the athletic ability is astounding. 4.32, 40-yard dash, great vert, great broad. The shuttle was not particularly great. It's not always the greatest from that area in terms of some of these running backs, and you got to do all the combine tests. That's why a lot of them end up skipping it. But either way, this is a physically gifted running back who had, in a smaller workload, great production, not just at small school North Carolina A&T, but also with the Virginia Tech Hokies. Now, there are downsides here for Tuten, the biggest of which is a fumbling issue. He has a very real fumbling problem that he has lost too many of those. Too many total. Sorry, correction. Not too many lost. He has too many fumbles overall. He only lost 1 fumble this past year for Virginia Tech. The problem he runs into with his overall play is that over the last couple of seasons, he had 2 fumbles with Virginia Tech. Only lost 2, but 2 fumbles is kind of a concern there. I don't think he's at his size. I don't think he's an every down running back. I think you want him as part of a committee, given his drop issues, which he's had too, and not being an elite pass protector. Actually kind of fits kind of nice alongside Javonte Williams. Might look for one more guy to share the workload. Maybe that could be Miles Sanders even. But between the return ability, the big play ability, I have a 4th-round grade on Tuten, and because there's so much depth in the running back class, that could be a strong 5th-round pick if he gets to you. I think he's a sleeper in this class. He's faster than him, but being Virginia guy-ish, and the size is very similar, and the fumbling issue too, the Tiki Barber. So what round, I think they will draft one, do you think the Cowboys will add that back? Round 1, 2, 3, get into the 4th round, 5th round, which I'd be shocked if they didn't get one before the 5th and probably the 3rd most likely. What round do you think the Cowboys end up drafting a back? Now again, we will get more news on 30 visits as the draft approaches. They'll begin to trickle in. We probably won't get all 30. I think back-to-back years, the Cowboys' 1st-round pick was a 30 visit that didn't actually get reported. Guyton, I think, was a 30 visit. I know Mozzie was one that had gone under the radar, too. We'll get more news on those. We normally get 25 of them. Expect more backs. This is a deep running back class. They will visit with a lot of back options. What's nice, by the way, is 2 notable options could end up counting for Dallas Day. The way this works is if you are a local player, there's Dallas Day, and you can come in and have some similar stuff to 30 visits and not count on the 30-visit list. And they've even allowed teams to have separate visits if you weren't able to make it to Dallas Day. Ashton Genty, who went to high school in Frisco, and Damian Martinez, who I think is from Louisville, should all count on the Dallas Day side. Martinez, by the way, also a very intriguing kind of late day 2, early day 3 candidate. I want you to grade Cowboys free agency so far. A, B, C, D, or F. We'll get to some super chats here in a little bit as well. 43% say C, 41% say B. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. A, B, C, D, or F. Now, Mark, a $2 super chat. If the Arizona receiver is gone, do we go Genty or go down? I don't know. I think at least one of McMillan or Genty's gone. I don't think both guys get to 12. And there's a chance both guys are gone. Of note, we have seen some very different times on the 40-yard dash time for T-Mac. Jordan Schultz tweeted out 4.48. Albert Breer has reported he's talked to 3 teams that had him in the mid-4.5s. Which sounds a little bit more like the actual 40-yard dash time for T-Mac. I put this out. I think it's a good reminder here. When you see pro day times come out, just ignore the very first one. Because I will tell you where that very first 40-yard dash time came from. The agent. The agent he's probably present, said, hey, what times do you get? Okay, this guy was the fastest. Text that to somebody. That's how the game is played. I would pretty much just ignore 40-yard dash times until Dane puts them out. Whatever time Dane has, that's the one I use. And it also kind of balances out the hand time, juice time. Ohio State always has a pretty fast 40-yard dash time because it's kind of downhill a little bit. It's just they do 39 yards. There's stories of way back when scouts would go to the time that they like this guy, so they stop that stopwatch at 39 yards and shave off that extra 0.1 to make it all look better. They just kind of it's used a little bit. That's why I trust Dane's times. Those are the ones the actual NFL teams use. YouTube Jay, you bringing back the Madden Sim? Yes, we will have more Madden Sims for you guys this off season. I have spent all my time playing CFB 25, but we'll do the Madden Sims and see what nonsense happens. And this time I'll never forget the fact that one went to overtime and there was an hour recording limit and it went hour 5, so we missed the overtime session. It was heartbreaking. But yes, we will have the Madden Sims. Dr. Jason Hembry, $20. Cheers to you, Jason. Woo! Bold prediction. Sam Williams will have more sacks than Tank Lawrence. Love your show. Keep up the great Cowboys content. It's not that crazy, actually. It requires injury statuses to be determined. Tank's got an injury history. That's always a red flag for him. That's why I was a little surprised he got 345, by the way. If Sam can stay healthy and be the guy that his upside suggests he can, that wouldn't be a shock either. So I think in terms of like bold predictions, I think that's a good one. Mark, if we grab Lockett and Tet, we are set. What would he cost? $15 million? I don't know what Lockett's going to cost. I think like his value is lower. We saw Hopkins go for 1 year $5, and maybe Lockett thinks he can get more money if he doesn't, because he probably wants to go to a contender. Some of those contenders play the comp pick game. He might wait a little bit, or he ends up signing with like the Raiders who don't care about the comp pick formula and gets 113 or something. That I think could be in the option range there. I don't know what Lockett ends up coming in for, but the Cowboys are very cheap. So anyway, sorry, we're throwing that one there. He says that and a running back round 2, and our offense is set. Puna's still there. He is not. He got $10 million from the Rams. And then round 3 BPA. I do think corner is an area you'd like to address. And you're kind of in this dangerous game of, as Johnny points out, you don't go back in round 1. You kind of want to go receiver or corner in round 1 instead. There are options at both spots, depending on who falls to you. I think the Cowboys would be pretty happy if T-Mac fell to 12. I think that'd be a pretty good outcome for them. Brings them some size they don't have. They don't have someone built like McMillan. That's good. They had Martavis Bryant, who was bad. Like, they had him at least. They had Seth Williams is kind of big, but like they don't have that caliber of guy. For Mark, we keep waiting on free agency players, or the players if the market prices go up. Jerry continues to be an idiot every year. It's the same thing. The argument of, hey, it takes two to tango is fair. It's also probably a red flag when, okay, you've kind of had the same issue at the top of the market on a pretty consistent basis. So there is a common thread there, and it's you. Mark, we need a stud running back. I am afraid with this class being so deep, we will wait to the 3rd or 4th. If Jerry Jones won't pay for difference makers, he needs to draft one. I'm inclined to agree. I think the nightmare scenario here is Genty's off the board, or you pass on him or whatever at 12, and then you get to 44, and there's a run on backs kind of in that like 20 to 40 range. And Hampton, who I don't think makes the 44 anyway, is long gone. And then Judkins is gone, or Henderson is gone, and Caleb Johnson are all gone. It's like, okay, now you're staring there at RB6. Does Dylan Sampson or Jordan James or RJ Harvey really go in round 2? Probably not. So you say, well, wait till the 3rd round, and then there's another run. And you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the runs. But I think there's enough depth compared to last year that you shouldn't have to worry too much about missing that run in the 3rd. And it's just like last year, frankly. If you'd just taken the guy in the 3rd, it wouldn't have mattered. The issue was you didn't take the guy in the 3rd, and they all went off for picks between the 3rd and the 5th. So if you don't take one in the 3rd, you better go trade up for one. That's my mindset. There's great depth. There should be guys there, but don't just always presume the depth is going to make it to you, because somebody else might get there. Gotham Guy, if Carter, Graham, Walker, Genty, and McMillan are off the board by 12, and there are no trade down offers, would you be okay taking without feeling who would you be okay taking without feeling that it is a reach? We'll do a segment on this, kind of. I'll kind of like rank the options. I am not personally as high on Jalen Walker. I get why people are. I don't want to ding him at all there. In this scenario, I would have 2 corners that I am quite high on, that maybe not everyone's high on them, that I wouldn't have too many issues taken there. Well, so I don't want to give away the whole show, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Mark, would you use a 2 and a 3 to ensure Hampton? Here's the issue I'm at, and this is bad front office management, but I need my 3rd round pick. I have too many holes to fill. I think I need another corner or a receiver, depending on which way I go in round 1. Now, if I can address that somehow with like signing somebody, okay. Here's the way that you get me into Hampton and trading up for Hampton. I trade down in round 1 and then use that pick to move up in round 2 or whatever. And I kind of go down then back up at different points to kind of play around, not miss out on overall draft capital. that could intrigue me. Or, I package a bunch of my 5s and go up in the 4th or something. This is the Super Chat menu here. Then we'll get into the next segment on today's show. Any Super is a shout-out. $20. Shot or bean boozled. Until we are out of shots, we'll do those. Unless you specify otherwise, then it's right to the bean boozled, and it's only bad, stale flavors left now. $50 for the beer bong, and the most 50s in the month of March gets a signed Zach Martin jersey. That is the Super Chat menu on today's show. The Cowboys are very much in the market for a new backup quarterback. Cooper Rush is off to the Baltimore Ravens. The Cowboys have one guy beyond Dak Prescott under contract, and they very clearly need to get some more help there. Now, we will have more updates for you on free agency as that mostly winds down, and, of course, the NFL draft as well. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. The Cowboys currently have 2 quarterbacks under contract on the roster. It is Dak Prescott. It is Will Grier. That is not a real NFL quarterback room. At minimum, you need somebody else on there. I would not anticipate Trey Lance being a viable option. The Cowboys had kind of essentially leaked they were going to move on from Lance well before this offseason got going. I'm sure Lance would try to find some more playing time. I kind of think go to the UFL and then get a backup job afterwards makes a lot of sense. We'll see if he goes down that path. And then Will Grier is under contract. Now, Will Grier hasn't played since 2019 in a real game. The Cowboys coaching staff seems to like him, but I don't think a lot of us would have immense confidence in Will Grier if the injury issues continue, which is a real concern for me, frankly, with Dak. If those continue, having to play Will Grier is not a path I think most of us would be on board with. Even if they like him as like the quarterback 3, that leaves a big hole in the quarterback 2 room. So there are 3 paths to adding a backup QB. The draft, trade, which seems highly unlikely, or free agency. So how do you think the Dallas Cowboys should add another quarterback behind Dak Prescott? D for draft, T for trade, F for free agency. It is the pinned comment on today's show. Yes, it is DTF because it is funny. Go vote at the pinned comment, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. D, T, or F. And the Cowboys still have 10 draft picks. After all that wheeling and dealing, they've got, I think, what most stands out, a couple 5th-rounders. They've got 3 of them, 2 6th-rounders, and 2 7th-rounders. They got 149, 171, 174, then 204, 211, 239, 247. Given the fact the Cowboys have rather publicly, not outright stated, but like essentially leaked that they like to draft a QB, that 5th round very much stands out as a potential option for the Cowboys. The reports have all been day 3 pick, which eliminates several quarterback options. Cam Ward's not going to go. Shedeur Sanders is not an option on day 3. He's not going to make it there. I don't think Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe make it to the 5th. That seems highly unlikely. There are some other quarterbacks who maybe get to you. And I'll emphasize the maybe there. There are fans around the league for Tyler Shuck out of Louisville, Quinn Ewers from Texas, and Will Howard out of Ohio State. So we'll spend time on these 3 guys, starting with Tyler Shuck. Began his career at Oregon, goes to Texas Tech. Finally had, I would actually argue, was a pretty good season for Louisville. I am willing to call Jeff Brom the backup quarterback whisperer. This is Aiden O'Connell, David Blau, Mike White, which kind of is a low-key decent comp, actually, as my slanderous comp is Gen Z Brandon Whedon, because he's turned 26 in September. To put that in perspective, he's older than Trevor Lawrence. Now, I think he's got a pretty high football IQ. He can do a bunch of the play-action stuff, can do typical drop-back passing. Medical red flags are kind of pretty high there. He also ran 44% play-action. That's kind of not a real offense. And I think the ceiling at his age and everything is limited, but it's a backup. Backup makes sense, but I don't want to take him like the 3rd round, you know? Then there's Quinn Ewers, who I think from a like football IQ perspective, I've only heard good things about Quinn Ewers. That he has fantastic command of the Steve Sarkisian offense. I also don't think he's ready to play football right now. Like the footwork is so bad. The under pressure stuff is so bad. It concerns me. Mentioned the play action RPO heavy for Tyler Shuck. It's 42% for Quinn Ewers. Like normal drop back stuff under pressure, he can't do it. And I think the footwork is so bad, it kind of disguises what I think actually is a pretty solid arm. Now, he had a good informal meeting with a bunch of the Cowboys coaches. I would bet he is a 30 visit for Dallas. It's a question of, does he make it down to the 5th round, where I'm far more comfortable taking him as a developmental backup QB, but also, just like Tyler Shuck, injury concerns abound. So be honest, again, this is all on the assumption of 5th round pick. Would you draft Quinn Ewers? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Now, Will Howard, especially in the college football playoff, had quite the little run. My player comp here is like a slightly less athletic Jeff Driscoll, so that's kind of like a more athletic Fitzpatrick, where I did see the turf monster get Will Howard too many times in that college football playoff run. But he's got great size. He's 6'4", 237, listed size there. He pushed the ball downfield pretty well. I think he benefited from an insanely strong Ohio State supporting cast. Was a little bit turnover prone. Had a couple high on the interceptions. Had some fumbles he was lucky to maintain too. But I think if you're looking for a backup quarterback, he stands out as one of the more appealing ones to you. By the way, later on, I will give my grades for all tentative grades for all these different QBs. Those guys might be gone. I would not be surprised if these next 5 guys were there. And that's Kyle McCord to Syracuse, Dillon Gabriel from Oregon, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, Curtis Rourke from Indiana, and Max Brosmer from Minnesota. I am actually kind of very intrigued by Kyle McCord. He kind of turned into a gunslinger this year at Syracuse, which was kind of crazy. Like he was far more willing to kind of let that ball sling in that offense than he was at Ohio State, which, again, is kind of a coaching thing there. The deep ball passing went up from a volume perspective. He closed the year. Let me go back here. One of the worst games I've seen against Pitt. He just turned it over left and right. He had 5 interceptions. Now, one wasn't his fault, but still. After that game, 69.5%, 9.3 yards per attempt, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. I kind of get like CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, like put him in that style of offense. I think some good things tend to happen there. But people will have a tough time getting at the Ohio State stuff. And the inconsistency is still very much there. Let's go to Dillon Gabriel, one of the more productive quarterbacks in this class, both at Central Florida, at Oklahoma, and Oregon. My comp here is, I think he is a better athlete version of Kellen Moore. He is an undersized, left-handed quarterback who generally puts the ball in the right place. I'm still kind of traumatized seeing him just basically run into pressure against Ohio State. It's just like it was a 4-man rush, and he would panic far too frequently. He does not have the traits to make it as a starter, but I think he has a lot of the game manager traits to look for in a backup QB. Then there's Riley Leonard, who is actually a really strong runner. He ran for 900 yards with Notre Dame this season. And remember that opening drive against the OSU? He just ran the ball. That's all he did. He's got toughness. He's got mobility. I like those two things in a backup quarterback. The deep passing was really bad at times. Just consistently underthrown. That NIU game stands out, I know, to a lot of people. Sometimes the ball comes out as a very weird angle, which is a red flag for me. But he's also got to add some weight if he wants to be more of a runner in the NFL. I've got him as a later day 3 backup option. Curtis Rourke, who began his career at Ohio and then made the move to Indiana. This is the comp here. He ran a little bit more at Indiana. The thing I'm reminded of is like Mason Rudolph, in the sense that he did have a good deep ball results. Like the numbers downfield were good. But for a guy that's like 6'4" and change, he does not have the crazy strong arm you would expect. It's actually kind of fairly mediocre. And he has issues going over the middle of the field. I think that's where the arm strength tends to show up the most on some of those deep digs there. Did play through a partially torn ACL, which is helps explain why he took so many sacks this year on top of that. And then I'll mention Mac Brosmer. My comp is current Mac Jones for him. And I don't mean that in a very positive way. Sorry, Chris. I know you're a Bama guy. Transfer from New Hampshire, goes to Minnesota, gets the ball pretty quickly, tends to protect the ball at a decent clip. But he's not a good downfield thrower, and he takes too many sacks. And he is limited from a physical trait perspective. Now, we will have more Cowboys videos for you all year long on the NFL draft and free agency too. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button for me right now. So of those 8 guys we went a bit more in-depth on, some of my grades here. Will Howard, a 4th. Tyler Shucks, a 5 for me. Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers also have early 5th-round grades. I reserve the right to change my mind if we get new information. I feel bad for biting the guy. I remember Carson Strong, I liked him, and then, the word came out of, hey, this guy had, the worst interview ever. I'm like, okay, he's going to drop down. Plus, I heard the medical stuff was bad. He ends up going undrafted. Dylan Gabriel, 5th/6th kind of coward cheater grade. Riley Leonard, 6th/7th cheater grade. Curtis Rourke, a 7. Max Brosmer, a UDFA. Decent chance Howard, Shuck are gone, and maybe it's between McCord and Ewers. Now, what quarterback do you want to draft? Let me know. I'll get some other names here, both draft and free agency-wise. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I'll verbally mention some other names. Brady Cook, Seth Hennigan, and Graham Mertz. I don't see draftable talent here. Hennigan had a nice little Senior Bowl run, but I don't think the physical traits are there. I kind of think Brady Cook is just outright bad. I think he really held back Luther Burden. Graham Mertz, I like his attitude, but I think he just isn't an NFL caliber QB. I will mention some free agent options. Again, I don't think Dallas wants to spend more than $3 million max on an outside free agent, so keep that in mind. Sam Ehlinger could be kind of fun, though. In that backup quarterback mode who hasn't played a lot, Texas boy, could be cheap. Drew Lock, who I've often said should be tank commander, hasn't materialized quite that way yet. But again, he probably wants more than 3. A chance to do a really funny thing and add Carson Wentz, which I don't want to see the Carson Wentz experiment play out on my team. That doesn't sound fun, but he's a free agent. Desmond Ridder has starting experience. I wouldn't call it good starting experience, but he has it. And then the funniest outcome and the best vibes outcome is Jameis Winston. I suspect he's going to try to go somewhere he could maybe start. Or that's, a spot like Tennessee or Pittsburgh or New York or whatever. But the vibes would be electric. And at least be entertaining if, God forbid, Dak goes down. That would be entertaining for the Dallas Cowboys. It is mailbag time here on the Cowboys Report. We will get to Mark. Let's get to the first Mark 1 before that. And then second Mark 1 and Jet Wolf 90 for the mailbag here. So get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Get them in. I'll sip some water here as well. Make sure I haven't missed any NFL free agency news. There actually is some. The Texans are signing Ronald Darby to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. So, minor news update, but wanted to make note of it. Maybe a corner option off the board. Mark says, Tom for GM, is there any doubt I could do it? Might have issues. I'd first move, I'd hire a real cap person. I'd be like, just go, give me the money and I'll go hire someone to actually run my books properly and not some buddy of Steven. All right, the Super Chat menu before we get into today's mailbag. Any Super Chat is a shout out, by the way. $20 a shot or the Bean Boozled. $50 for the Beer Bong. Most 50s in the month of March is a signed Zach Martin jersey. Anthony McMillan has the lead today, or this month I should say, at 8. A super thanks to get today's Cowboys Report mailbag going from Mikey Montano. Thoughts on the Boise State bum? I'm Ryan with Micah, Osa, Diggs, and Overshown's thoughts. This is in reference to Tank Lawrence's comments. Look, very clear, if you didn't already know, there were issues between Micah and Tank, and I think, leadership style and how they wanted to handle things. I don't remember what game it was. I think it was the Ravens game. There was that clip of, like, Micah trying to step up and, like, hey, let's do this. And Tank kind of just, like, said, are you doing it? No? Then stop, basically, which I was like, that's kind of a red flag. Look, I think there's a lot of right and wrong going on here. Like, Tank is not being truthful when he says, I went to Seattle to win a Super Bowl. You took the money, Tank. That comment was 2 weeks removed from him saying he wanted to stay in Dallas. So come on. Like, let's be honest here. I think many of you would agree with the fact that you'd like to have it just be football focused and not with the podcast stuff with Micah. Until they win a Super Bowl, he's never going to beat the podcast Parsons allegations. Fair or not, that's how it is going to go. Should be kind of telling that a lot of the different players kind of hopped in support of Micah. But look, there's a lot of ego involved there, and they just didn't get along, and now things gone. The guy that didn't get along with him, one of them's gone. So in theory, problem solved. From Jim, a super thanks that just says thanks. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate any and all super thanks here on the Cowboys Report. It's a feature on YouTube. It's like a super chat, but on demand. Edit your message, send in whatever, and we'll give you a shout out on the show because we appreciate your support. Eric Ramsey, can you count Gronk as taking a year off and then being stud or still good? This is about the maybe not signing Gallup. The comment I'd made was, when was the last time a player unretired and came back and was good? Eric's got it right. It was Gronk. That's one of the outliers there. Mighty Ant 0215. They draft well, but then pan out like C. the Mega. They don't want to pay him. So when they are due, so WTF. And Thomas was only an early pick, rest second round grades. Fish trying to push that point of view. It is funny to see the Cowboys sign a bunch of former first round picks, but this is also true. Like, a lot of those picks, Peyton Turner was not a first round grade for Dallas. I don't think Kenneth Murray was a first round grade. He might have been on that fringe. Solomon Thomas, I think, was a first round grade. But everyone else is kind of further down that first round, second round grade conversation. Second round grades and a little bit later. But it was guys they liked coming out of the draft. They're trying to buy low on those. And then, yeah, it is, a consistent trend of not paying your best guys early to save money. CJ, this was in reference to me saying a backup quarterback should learn from Dak. What's he learning from Dak? How to be a hack? Thanks. CJ later clarified that he was just mad at the Jones boys, which I get. I totally get that. I think there actually are things you can certainly be worried about with Dak Prescott. The playoff success is one of them. That's a team thing in part, but he's good with the Cowboys. He gets blamed there too. My biggest concern, the injuries. It's been several years he's missed time with injuries. He's not getting any younger. Some of them fluke, but, if you have a bunch of fluke injuries in a row, we're kind of on that range of, you can have the is Dak Prescott injury-prone conversation. That's my biggest concern. Because if he's hurt, you're in big trouble there. So overall, knowing this will be a not fun conversation, but extreme levels, what's your concern level over Dak Prescott? 1 to 10 is your scale. I'm at like a 4 with all the injury stuff, but let me know in the comments. 1, factoring in injury stuff. 1 to 10, the outcomes here on YouTube. Take advantage. Go vote at the pinned comment. For Mark, we have about 6 big guys we play whether they deserve the money or not. Do we have no cap space via Jerry Jones? Huge gap in quality between them and the rest of the guys. The overall trend I've noticed from this Cowboys team is they have the big 6, right? Like they almost always have those guys, those top of the market guys. It used to be Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and Zeke Elliott. Now there's new guys coming in. It's Tank Lawrence in there. Now it's like Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb and, in theory, Tyler Smith and DaRon Bland and Micah Parsons and Dak. Like, those guys always stay. And then the Cowboys aren't as aggressive as a team like Philadelphia is in that second tier of, that like 10 to 20 range among your roster. And they kind of the middle class gets kind of squeezed a little bit. And the Cowboys this offseason have added a bunch of depth. They've added talent from that like 35 to 53 range on the roster. But they haven't addressed like 1 to 25. And that's where I have my issues with the offseason. JetWolf 90. I know it'll never happen, but the Steelers offer a three firsts, a 2026 second, and 2/3 and George Pickens That somehow make Dak live with or Jerry live with trading Dak. If QB, I don't know if QB an issue, could you tank for Arch? I mean, I think that's like how you would be fine moving it. Like I would be very surprised if 3 1s, a 2, 2 3s, and a player actually happened in a trade. That's so much to give up. I would be honestly shocked. Like, I'm like, sure, I'll take the 3 1s. Like, that's how you jumpstart a rebuild, and you tank for insert quarterback here, Arch, Garrett Nussmeier, whatever. Like, I think they would consider doing that. I don't think Pittsburgh would actually consider doing that. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It is available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. I always advise the flex play. You can get one wrong and still cash out. PrizePicks invented the flex play, by the way. Some football season-long PrizePicks, less than on Jared Goff passing yards. Could be regression year for Detroit. Kelsey, less than receiving yards. He's getting old now. And Jaden Daniels, less than rushing yards as well. Download the PrizePicks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. CJ, a $5 super chat. We talk a lot about the hole at running back. How's the O-line, though? Will they be able to block for him? In theory, 2 things happen to your offensive line. Number 1, your young guys take a natural step forward. And remember, this is actually a very young offensive line. Everyone but Terrence Steele is really on their first contract still. It's a very young unit. And that next step is elevated by better coaching. That the combination of Clayton Adams, who always seemed to maximize his O-lines in Arizona compared to the presumed talent level, and the addition of Connor Riley from Kansas State leads to better results, specifically probably with your tackles, Guyton and Steele, and you kind of change your run game schematics, which I didn't like the past couple seasons, which I think they will be changing things, and that gets better results as well. So instead of like going from you got 5s across the offensive line, now you're dropping in a 10 in terms of talent, you're adding 1 to 2 with the scheme, the coaching, and just general growth. In theory, it's better. It is theory. And if you have concerns about it, I think that's valid. From Godfather Cards, Sixers? Boy, sorry, buddy. Should we draft Tyler Warren if he falls to us? From my board perspective, he'd be one of the best guys on there. He would be right up there he's a top 10 player, I think, in the class. If he's there at 12, you have to consider it. The downside is that's a luxury pick. And does this team think they can afford a luxury pick, even if it is a playmaker, which they do need? From Maximili, thanks from Max. What do you think about Elijah Moore? Only 24 years old. Is he Robin to your Batman? You think Dallas could sign him? Elijah Moore is a nice receiver. Now, he and I also discussed, and he mentioned, still drafting somebody's option two, which in that scenario I'm on board with. I don't want to, of all the receivers, Keenan Allen, as of filming that are available, film this on Monday, obviously, Keenan Allen, Lockett, Amari, Diggs, Elijah Moore, I think those are your top guys. I don't want that guy I signed to probably a 1-year deal to stop me from drafting a receiver if the right guy is there. I want it to be, okay, I don't have to force the wide receiver pick. I don't think Elijah Moore is, I'll go full nerd here, I don't think he's like Dick Grayson Robin. He's like Damian Wayne Robin, which just isn't as good. But it's better than, no Robin. So name a receiver. That's very nerdy, and I don't apologize for it, actually. Name a receiver who you want to add draft or free agency-wise. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Eric Ramsey, how much cap is left? News on Keenan Allen. Who do you want Dallas to sign with? Who's left? Thanks. If PrizePicks is today's sponsor, I'll do a slate. There you go, Eric. Got you covered. Keenan Allen, pretty quiet. Again, this might make me look very stupid in a day, but I wonder if some of these older receivers are going to wait until as long as possible, / look for a different path of like, let's be patient, see if we get more money after the draft, or if there's teams that need a receiver still. That could be in play because at that age, injury history stuff, those things kind of begin to have an option there. Look, I think receiver, corner, and if you can go get a nose guard, not a great group, those stand out to me. Cap-wise, as of filming, I don't have all the contract details yet. Again, as of Monday afternoon / evening, Brian Anger, Israel Mukwamu, Jack Sanborn, the true Dante Fowler details. I think I'm leaving somebody off too. Israel Mukwamu, I mentioned Izzy. All don't have the actual contract details. Now, my guess is those have very minimal salary cap impact. So you're kind of staring on the barrel of 33, 34, maybe even 35-ish million dollars. Plenty of money available still. I'm just going to go with Munoz, otherwise I'm going to butcher it. I'm very sorry. If Genty and McMillan are gone and Warren falls 12, would Dallas draft a tight end? Is there a corner that they like? Is Will Johnson there? Do they actually violate their own rules and draft Jade Baron with the arm length concerns? Like I think they would consider Tyler Warren because I think that is just he might be the best player on their board. Now the issue is you're probably going to move Ferguson at some point. That's fine. At the end of the world. Gives you a different type of maybe do more 12 personnel. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I just wonder if the Cowboys would value the tight end angle there. Now, to be a part of the mailbags, you got to be subscribed. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. From Ratio, $2. How about Tyler Booker at 12 to replace Zach Martin? If you think Booker's the best lineman left and you have a high grade on him, sure. I don't have Booker as a first-round grade. I know there will be multiple different players, probably multiple even offensive linemen potentially, that I have over Booker when the Cowboys are on the clock at 12, so that's not how I have him graded. Mark's comped me to Alfred. Okay. There's no Batman without Alfred, so I'm fine with that. From Just Sell the Team, what's your worst-case draft scenario? I mean, ignoring like they take a player I'm just not high on, which sometimes I'm wrong and sometimes I'm right. That's how the draft goes. You're never going to be 100%. Never forget my meltdown, which I wasn't even live for, thank God, for the Nashawn Wright pick. Because I hopped off to get set up for the cut. I melted down in the office. I was like, this is so stupid. And sometimes I'm wrong. They were right on Tyler Smith. Thank God. I think that the worst case scenario is like they wait on a position of need, whether that's receiver or maybe corner or running back. Running back kind of makes the most sense in this scenario. Thinking that they can get someone in the third round or something, or the fifth round, and all the guys they like go off the board. And that just kind of ruins it for them. So kind of coming off that mindset, who do you not want the Cowboys to pick? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. From Luke, with T-Mac running the 4-4s, I doubt he falls to 12. I'll say this. I don't think he actually ran in the 4-4s. We'll wait till Dane's numbers come out, because I know Schultz posted 4.48. That was straight from the agent. Albert Breer's got 4.54, 4.55, and 4.57. So I think mid 4.5 is kind of who he is still. I don't think, frankly, whatever Tet really ran should change your mindset that much. I think that's kind of who he is. So I think he might be there. Not a guarantee, but he might be there. Unimpressed with Burden's production against more athletic teams like Bama, where athletic disparity can't carry him. Thoughts? How much of that was Burden's fault and just his quarterback's play? Like I didn't like the quarterback play from Luther Burden. I think that's a valid complaint, but receiver production is also heavily tied to quarterback play, even though some, not saying this is you, Luke, but some people just like don't want to acknowledge that. They just like choose to ignore it, which is kind of crazy to me. For Mark, I'd pay $10 million for Puna. Another guy lost. He's great insurance. Reminds me, it drives me nuts. We need a free agent receiver. Can't stand Dak, but he needs help. I think regardless how I feel about Dak, this is true. You need to get more help. Brandon Cooks was not wrong when he said the organizational help has to be better. Now, if we did not get to your question here on the Cowboys Report, that is okay. We'll do more live shows. We'll do more mailbags. My DMs are also open. Hit me up on Twitter at WhatGoingDowning. We'll get to some more super chats here. Don't worry, folks. But non-Cowboys, I'm going to turn my fan on too because it gets hot sometimes with the lights on me. Who do you have winning your bracket this year, March Madness? I have not set mine up yet. I don't like Duke, but I feel like Duke's got a good chance at it. Who do you have winning March Madness this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let's see. I'll give a couple shout-outs here. Lone Wolf does not watch basketball. I normally watch basketball in March. That's about when I care. Get those votes. I see Memphis from Daniel. Memphis had like a normal year for them for once, and that kind of worked out pretty well. I see Duke versus Texas Tech. Tech's got a good squad this year. All good questions. Keep them coming in there. Or good answers. Keep them coming in there. All right, Noah Turner. My idea for Parsons' deal. 168, 130 guaranteed. I think that gets it done. I need to double check what did Jamar Chase get guaranteed? Let me double check that here. The average per year is 42. So that checks off that box of highest paid non-QB. And then Myles Garrett contract had how much guaranteed? Was that like around 132? He had like 123. So yeah, that gets it done. And you beat TJ Watt, you beat others. That would get it done, and you'd have plenty of money available still. I think you're right there, Noah. Mark, Tom Einstein was sometimes wrong. Jerry Jones and Einstein. It's valid. Shout out to Jariah saying, Tom, you're not wearing green for your Irish heritage. I think there is some Irish blood in me. I'm not sure. I need to double check that. I've not paid attention to my family tree. I can't wear green, though, because that's a green screen, and I will disappear. Chris is kind of wearing some green, though. Chris has some green on there. Nick Morissette. Sign Diggs. I think / Cooper is what he means. I would assume not both, but maybe you do mean both. Genty / Hampton in the first. Second is Azarie Thomas / Trey Amos. 3 is Farmer / Phillips. Is this realistic? I got the delusional tag after betting the Cowboys plus 6,000. I got to be honest, man. I feel like you just wasted $5, $10, $15. I would not bet Cowboys Super Bowl right now. I have no confidence there. Draft-wise, I think it's doable. I don't know if they'd sign Diggs or Amari, but I think like the values for those guys, like draft pick-wise, yeah, I think that's actually very, very doable. Tristan Brown, the Ginger Devil is no longer in Dallas. Number 10. I don't know. It feels a little mean to Cooper Rush. I mean, despite what Jeremy Chugs tried to tell you, he was never a top 15 whatever quarterback, but he did his job as a backup. Hopefully he can find someone a little bit younger to develop and grow and hopefully never play, but the injury concerns, as I've said for 2 years now, are kind of the main concern for me. All right, the Super Chat menu. Any Super Chat is a shout-out. $20 shot or bean boozled. I got shots left here. $50 for the beer bong and the most 50s in the month of March. So I'll make sure I don't block that. Get a signed Zach Martin jersey. Right now, the leader is 8 with Anthony McMillan. Get those Super Chats in. We'll come back to them after the final segment of today's show. With NFL free agency very much winding down, time for a look at some of the top draft options for the Cowboys with the number 12 overall pick. This is mostly how I feel about these players, but there are some elements I'll add of how I suspect the Cowboys might feel about various players, mostly based on their historical preferences. Now, if you want a new Dallas Cowboys mock draft, show it by sharing today's video, and we can get to one before the end of the week. Hit that share button for me right now. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever. Help us out by sharing today's show. Now, I'm assuming no trades up here, which means there is a 0% chance that Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter are there. Even the bong mask photo leak wouldn't be enough to get those guys down there. They're just not feasible options. So after those two guys, I think the possible range of outcomes is very wide. I don't think there's a lot of consensus beyond those top two guys. There's one guy that stands out to me who I don't think will get there, but it could be a very weird draft. Maybe something crazy happens. I think that there could be some sliders. In general, The 2025 class is kind of weird. There's not 5 true top 5 guys, so you're taking a guy at 5 that is more of a top 10 player, and there's not 10 top 10 guys, so a top 10 guy is more of a top 15 guy. There's not 15 top 15 guys, so you're taking a guy in the 20s or kind of even a second-round grade in the top 15. It's not stacked. There is a lack of consensus. One team's edge 2 is going to be another team's edge 5, and that's like a 20-pick range, if not higher. And that could lead to some weird picks of, wow, you took that guy at 15? I thought he's going to go with 35. That could very well happen. I've got less than 15 first-round grades. So there's a couple cheater grades I'll make a decision on once final athletic testing kind of comes in and bump them up 2 or 3 spots or down 2 or 3 spots. But I don't have a lot of true first-round grades in this class, which that's lower than what it normally is. And I've also got less of my first, second-round cheater grades. Not a lot of them, which is why, by the way, you really want quarterbacks to go early. You want Cam Ward gone, you want Shedeur Sanders gone, and somebody to be really dumb and take Jackson Dart, which I don't think ends up happening, but still. Who do you want to draft at number 12 overall? Pin comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, great, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know, who do you want to draft at number 12 overall? So let's rank these top draft options. Number 1, Michigan defensive tackle trauma alert. I don't care. You're crazy. It's Mason Graham. I would frankly be shocked if Mason Graham actually fell out of the top 10. I don't think you should get past number 5 with Jacksonville unless somehow 3 QBs go in the top 3, which would be great for the Cowboys. I get the arm length's not great. This guy reminds me of Christian Wilkins. I think he is not going to be a double-digit sack generator in most years, but he's a quality run stopper. He can still generate pressure. He is a 3-down defensive lineman. Wilkins had a bit of a slow start to getting his sack numbers up. The pressure rates are actually very, very solid. This is a top 5 player for me. I would jump at him for the number 1 overall pick, or number 12 overall pick. Number 2, and this one might be where there's some disagreement. I'm going to go with T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. For me, with what the Cowboys in particular need, this is the ideal blend of talent, of impact, and filling needs. I think, and I do believe this, we'll talk about this more in depth, Genty's going to be higher on my non-specific Cowboys big board than T-Mac. But McMillan has had great production, and I don't think he actually ran a 4.48 at his pro day. As of filming, I've not seen Dane put out the actual numbers yet. He's probably more of a mid-4.5s wide receiver, which is what I expected going in. I get T. Higgins vibes here from McMillan. Big frame, can do slot and outside stuff. Solidifies your number 2 wide receiver role. He's there at 12. I think the Cowboys would be very, very happy. And I would also have no issues taking Ashton Genty at number 3. It fills a need. You can still address, maybe receiver corner later. From an individual, just big board perspective, I do have Genty higher than McMillan. Those grades are not wildly different, however. And so, again, specifically talking for the Cowboys, if it was like a team like the Bears, I'd have Genty over McMillan specifically for them. The positional value and the need flips that. In the end, I don't think you will have to choose between these 2 guys. I would be very surprised if both players are there. I have a tough time seeing one of them get past. The Raiders at 6 kind of stands out to me as a potential fit for both Genty and T-Mac. Genty is an awesome football player. I saw the comp from, I think it was NFL.com, comp to LaDainian Tomlinson. That's super fun. He is a scheme fit for any NFL team. He fits all of it. He had, what was the exact stat? He had more yards after contact than any other running back had in college football this year. He had 1,970 yards after contact. Ridiculous. Top 5 player for me in the class. McMillan not very far behind him. So pick one of these 2 to draft. Let's say they're both there. Who would you rather have? Let's put it that way. TM for T-Mac, AJ for Ashton Genty. There is a bit of a tier gap after these 2 guys for me. But let me know who you would rather have, TM or AJ. These next kind of 3-ish options are kind of all pretty similar for me. Tyler Warren, who I'm a huge fan of his game. This kind of comes down to, it's a luxury pick, but you're getting an awesome football player out of Penn State. I don't know if he's going to have the same adjustment period as other tight ends have faced, but it kind of worked out pretty well for Brock Bowers. Different player than Brock Bowers. I get like shades of early career. It's going to be high praise. Jason Witten / Greg Olsen. I've heard great things about the football IQ. He's got after catch ability. Penn State gave him the Wild Warren package of putting him under center, so you could do that as your tush push option if you want to. Not that that's kind of like just like a bonus there. I think Warren is a top 10 player in the class, so I got to put him on there. Number 5. This is Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. And this, for me, kind of like how T-Mac does, I'm not going to overthink this. I watched Will Johnson from pretty much day one at Michigan be an elite corner. And I get he missed a lot of time this year with injury. This assumes the injury stuff checks out. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. But I've watched this guy have 2 pick sixes this year and half a season of play. I see a bit at times too much of a gambler. I don't think he's going to be a 4.6 40-yard dash or 4.6 or 4.4 40-yard dash guy. I kind of get Xavier Howard shades here, where he's not a burner, but he's a playmaker, and he is able to be a potential number 1 corner in the NFL. I think if Michigan wasn't terrible, he probably would have played his final game, but he won a national championship in 2023, so he didn't have to come back for down the stretch this year. The hamstring constraints a concern. I don't know if he's going to run a 40, but given your lack of cornerback long-term options, I think you should consider Will Johnson. Now, number 6 works for a couple of the guys above this, probably 4 and 5. I don't think I trade away from McMillan. I don't know if that's too much of a gamble for me. And all the guys to come, what if you just traded down? In general, I love moving down. I almost made trade down number 5, by the way, and even considered it 4. In general, trading down to get more shots at the dartboard in an inaccurate science of the NFL draft makes sense. The issue here does require a willing trade partner. And I don't know if you're going to have a willing trade partner in this class. Last year, you got lucky. The Lions overpaid to move up. In terms of what the potential trade down stuff looks like, these are the rough trade values per the updated NFL draft trade chart. And it could, trade value goes up. Maybe it's not quite the exact numbers. There's some weird, you got 6 pick difference between a third and a second. So a little bit high, a little bit low. But general trade values here. Move down to 14, 15, can probably get a 4 from the Falcons or the Colts. To around 17, can get a third back. To around 23, can get a 2 back. So depending on how far you're okay moving down, get some extra draft capital back, and hopefully still get one of the guys to come on this list. Now, what do you think is the percent chance the Dallas Cowboys actually trade down? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Number 7. And this is one of my preferred players. I have him lower just because I have doubts that the Cowboys are going to have a tremendous amount of interest here for a variety of different reasons. I am a big fan of Jade Baron's game. And you can go back to a couple of other mock drafts. I moved up for him at 1 back when he wasn't going in round 1. This is my kind of corner. This is the ideal Jordan Lewis replacement. Don't know if you want to spend a top 12 pick on a nickel, but Baron can do safety. He can do outside corner. He can do nickel. He is a playmaker. He's got ball skills. He's a good tackler. He's a run support player, and he tested the way I wanted him to. Despite all of that, I have my doubts that the Cowboys are as high on Baron as I am. And sometimes you have to break your rules, but there's one big thing that stands out here. The 4.39 40 was electric from Baron. He's not that big. He's under 5'11", 194. He has sub 30-inch arms, really 29 and 5/8 inches. And the Cowboys historically don't have interest there. They have thresholds. Baron's arm length does not pass their threshold. I would love to be wrong and them to make an exception here. He has done everything you want him to do at corner. He's done great, vision for zone stuff. He's not an elite tackler, but he's a willing tackler who will still make plays in the run game. Answered every question about the 40-yard dash. I'm higher on him than most. I would take him at 12. I just have doubts the Cowboys would. I'm going to cheat a bunch of more names here because why not? It's my show. Number 8, take the best offensive lineman left. Now, that could be offensive lineman 1 for you. It could all kind of fall apart and it's offensive lineman 4. The value and the need might not match up here. I don't think the Cowboys are going to give up on Guyton. I don't think they should. I think taking back-to-back first-round picks on a left tackle is kind of insane. But you should consider offensive lineman if you really want to go true BPA. So 5 names, and these are my grades, by the way, for all 5 of these offensive linemen here. I've got Armand Membu as a first-round pick. I've got Will Campbell as a first-round pick. I don't know if Campbell can play tackle. His arm length, which is a big issue for the Cowboys, is so short, and the wingspan is it's T-Rex-esque, frankly. I think he's a guard. I think he might be an elite center, by the way. Kelvin Banks, I've got a cheater grade on. I think he's a better tackle than he is guard, though. So again, I got issues there. Josh Simmons is talented. Bad knee injury. Also, didn't play anybody this year. That is a red flag for me. Booker's the best pure guard in the class, but he's not going to be a top 15 player for me. Now, we will have you covered on all the latest on the Dallas Cowboys as it relates to the NFL Draft. So make sure you guys are subscribed. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Number 9, not counting Travis Hunter here. But if T-Mac is gone, you could simply take the second best wide receiver. The need is obvious. You need wide receiver help. And there is a chance that if you don't take one of the first, you might wait until the third, depending on how you have some other guys. I've got guys I like, but Dallas might not feel the same way. The biggest question here is how do you stack them? Who is your receiver 2? Because my wide receiver 2 could very well be your wide receiver 4. And for honestly completely valid reasons. There are concerns with all of these guys. My number 1 receiver, beyond T-Mac, is Luther Burden. I liked him a lot going into this year's draft class, or this year's season, I should say. I was disappointed, but I refuse to overthink a really good athlete who was just a consistent playmaker, especially after the catch. I think he's awesome, was held back by bad quarterback play. I think he's awesome. Matthew Golden really impressed me down the stretch this year. Tested great. Emeka Ibuka, if you want a reliable, high-end Bobby Trees wide receiver 2, that works as well. Is 12 rich for those guys? Maybe, but if you trade down to 23, how many are left? That's the question mark there. Number 10, and I'll kind of cheat with number 11, by the way, as well. You take your best front 4 player left. Now, Dallas has added players here. They've added Solomon Thomas, Peyton Turner, Dante Fowler. I think it would have to be somebody that they love who is available for them at number 12. And again, the guy they love might not be the guy I love. So again, some early versions of grades here along the defensive line. Should be the first round grades. If we go there first, Chris, by the way. I've got a couple first cheater grades and a couple second round grades here. I do a first round grade on Mike Green. If you don't trust the character off field, move on. That's fine. Shamar Stewart is Jadeveon Clowney to me. Freaky athlete. A&M should be thrown in jail for the way they limited both him and Nick Scorton, but you can't just outright dismiss 4.5 career sacks. Or 5 careers. 4.5 career sacks. That you can't just ignore that altogether. But he should be better in the NFL. Jalen Walker scares me a little bit. If he's an edge versus an outside linebacker, but I think you can do a lot of creative stuff with him. I just wonder if is he Frankie Luvo? Is he like Clay Matthews or Bruce Irvin? Where does he fall in on that scale? I like Kenneth Grant a lot. As a defensive tackle nose guard type, stands out to me. I don't know if they take him at 12 though. Could be a good, again, trade down candidate. Michael Williams, I'm not as high on either. I don't hate him, but I got a second round grade on him. I haven't seen enough consistent pass rush stuff. Even though he was banged up this year, at some point, hey, you're banged up a lot. That's kind of also a factor. I am not as high on Walter Nolan. I am simply not. I see way too many inconsistencies. I actually have Derek Harmon over him, but I'm not taking Harmon at 12 either. So. Some bonus, these are probably trade down BPA options. I still believe in Malachi Starks. They're never taking a safety in round 1. Giad Campbell, especially in a trade down, I am kind of intrigued by, but how many linebackers do you need on one team? You're kind of into that range if you think Overshown's going to be healthy in the next year. Nikamon Wari tested great, fun safety, but again, not taking a safety in round 1. And then trade down candidate would be like a Marion Hampton. I want you to make it to if you made it to the end of the video, excuse me, appreciate that. Show it by sharing today's video if you haven't already. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Help us out by sharing today's show. All right, grade the Cowboys free agency for me. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments. A, B, C, D, or F. 46% voting C. 37% voting B. Get those votes in. As long as these super chats come in, we'll stay live here. Mark says, Tom, Einstein was wrong sometimes. Jerry Jones and Einstein. We got that one. I also got the Knicks one previously, and Tristan was the last one we got to. So this one. They Hate Mike. Reminds me of He Hate Me. I think it wasn't Rod Smart. Or was it Rod Smart? I forget who it was who had the He Hate Me jersey on the back. McMillan or Gold in the first. Henderson or Scadaboo in the second. I'm down. I have a much higher grade, though, on Henderson than I do Cam Scadaboo. It's not something against Scadaboo. I prefer the explosive plays that Henderson brings. He's got way more athletic juice. Tristan, McCord or Shuck in the 5th as a future backup. I'd be down. I got them both in the 5th round. And if you don't have to pay a quarterback premium, it's kind of a win in the end for me. Alexis, Ronaldo or Messi? It's Messi for me. And that's like a 50-50 split, but give me Messi. It reminds me of, in college, the guy across the hall, Jim, was like a stupid good FIFA player because like in high school he tore his ACL and just like couldn't play, so he just played FIFA. At one point, freshman year of college, he was top 100 in the world in FIFA. He would kick my ass. I'm not good at FIFA, and he would just like he would literally do actual Barca ball of just like pass, shot goal. It was impressive. It was impressive. Nick, I like Golden over Tet. Not working out the combo. You have to clear number 1 at your position is crazy. Golden outworked Burden also, at least running wise. I think you can absolutely make the argument that Matthew Golden is a better athlete relative to size. I think that the numbers bear this out. Then Luther Burden, then T-Mac. It's also not just athletic ability. And I like Golden a lot. I would not be mad if he ended up as a Cowboy. And I was just wanted to see T-Mac not run. Like, I want those guys to compete. Outside of like quarterbacks, I don't care that much about it. I like to have it. I do think T-Mac kind of ducked the 40 a little bit. It's not the end of the world. I know he's not a burner. I already kind of factor that into the eval. At least I do. So I would not let the combine swing it when like the film and the grades I had going in were that different. But I also understand the Golden love. Remember, 40-yard dash times can be juiced. I know Bobby Belt mentioned this. Like Shuck ran like a 4.64. When he first showed up to workouts, he ran a 5.05. Just kind of crazy to think about there. But I understand the concerns that comes with it. It's not enough to change my mind on it. But I understand and respect your mindset too. All right, Chris Broussard's burner accounts. Next, the last one here. Cargo shorts or jorts? I guess jorts, but like not the ones that go down to the mid calf. Like those look terrible. Like, and I would probably prefer them to be like darkly colored, like almost black jorts. So it's like shorts. Like, I don't know. That's not great options there. We will be live again on Thursday. So if you haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. More free Cowboys videos right here on the Cowboys Report. One note, if you care at all, some jersey numbers have changed and new ones in there. Wanye Thomas is now number 2. Elite upgrade for Wanye Thomas. Dante Fowler is 3. Kyer Elam is 20. Miles Sanders, 27. Javonte Williams, 33. Jack Sanborn, 57. Kenneth Murray's 59. Robert Jones, 65. Paris Campbell's 80. Solomon Thomas is 90. And Peyton Turner is 98. Big stock up for Wanye Thomas as far as I'm concerned. So Minor updates on the jersey numbers. No one really cares. But we'll see you guys again on Thursday live, plus more videos, 2 of them at least each.